Hey, welcome back to The Dive. Today we're chatting with Justin Cochrane from Carbon Streaming Corp. But before we dive into it, if you could do me a quick favor and like this video and subscribe to our channel, that'd be awesome. Hey, Justin, welcome to The Dive.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Okay, so Justin, let's start off with the 2-minute elevator pitch for Carbon Streaming Corp. How does the business model work?
So what we've done is taken a proven business model that's been around for decades in the mining and oil and gas sector, and it's a sector that I've been involved with for the last 15 years of my career. And we're taking that model, which is the royalty and streaming business model, and applying it to a new commodity in a sense. And that commodity is carbon credits. So we are investing in carbon credit projects around the world. These carbon credit projects remove CO2 or avoid the emission of CO2 into the atmosphere, so benefit and help fight climate change. And at the same time, in most cases, we'll have social and biodiversity benefits that are also associated with these carbon credit projects. And we've been raising capital. The company's been around now for almost 2 years. Have a very active pipeline of investment opportunities that we'll be looking forward to announce over the next couple of months.
Carbon Streaming announced its first two investments in Bonobo Peace Forest and Marvivo Blue Carbon. Can you walk us through the terms and why each project made sense for the company?
Absolutely. So the first project we announced was the Marvivo Blue Carbon project. Announced that a couple of weeks ago. That is an investment into a proven group of developers who will be advancing the project through implementation and verification in the Baja, Mexico. It's the project is expected to produce about 1 million carbon credits per annum, and we are providing them with the funding required to advance and develop that project. And in exchange for our capital, we will have the right to receive the greater of 20% of their annual production, or 200,000 carbon credits on an annual basis. And that is a 30-year agreement. So it's a very long-term stream that we've acquired there. And for every carbon credit that we sell, 40% of that will also go back to the project developers. And in essence, our gross profit from those credits will be 60% of our selling price. On the BCI opportunity that was just announced yesterday, these are two tremendous projects in the Congo. Very excited to support Sally Cox and her team at the Bonobo Conservation Initiative. She's been working in the DRC for over 20 years, protecting and conserving the habitat of bonobos, which is a fascinating ape. And so again, very similar to the Marvivo investment, we will be giving them the capital to advance and develop that project over the next couple of years. And both of these projects have the ability to generate millions of carbon credits on an annual basis. And we'll be working with them over the next couple of months, as we've just signed an exclusive term sheet to negotiate the final terms of those transactions, and we'll be updating investors in due course.
So you just mentioned you entered an exclusive term sheet with the Bonobo Conservation Initiative. Can you walk us through your diligence?
Absolutely, yeah, and it's very important for investors to understand the diligence process that we undertake for all of our investments. So this is true of Marvivo, it's true of BCI, and it will certainly be true of other investment opportunities that we're currently looking at. We hire our own separate independent group of consultants, and in many cases, two sets of consultants that help us dig into all of the project level material that the developers have produced on those projects. We will conduct site visits. We'll meet with the local community and local government officials, and ensure that there's broad project support for the projects that we're investing in, and to make sure that we understand exactly the number of carbon credits that are expected to be generated from that project. And then once we have final reports from our consultants, that goes to an independent investment committee that we have several independent members of our team that are a part of that committee, and it's people who have been in the carbon space for 30, 40 years, and they help us evaluate the due diligence reports that have been prepared, and then following that, they would make a recommendation to the board in which to proceed with an agreement. So that's the process that we're undertaking now on BCI. That's the process that we undertook on Marvivo, and are also undertaking on a number of other opportunities that we're looking at.
So one of your project initiatives is to avoid and remove tons of carbon dioxide. Can you share with us your vision here and how you will materialize it?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think of, and this is a common question on what is a carbon credit represents 1 ton of CO2, carbon dioxide or carbon dioxide equivalents. And so that one ton of CO2 is what, or the avoidance or removal of that 1 ton of CO2 is what allows a project developer to issue a credit. And that credit specifically has to be reviewed and audited by independent third parties. But you cannot issue a carbon credit unless you meet a very stringent criteria that's set out by a number of these organizations. And so by virtue of us investing in these projects and supporting projects, and being able to monetize the carbon credits that are generated from these projects, in essence, that the whole business plan is assisting in those projects in removing CO2 and helping to fight climate change.
How hard is it to find great opportunities to invest in the space?
Well, it's a really good question, Cassandra. There's what I really like about this space is if you look at the carbon credit space globally today, there's over 7,000 projects that exist, and several hundred more that are slated for development over the next couple of years. So we've got a large group of consultants and people who help us find projects. Of course, we've got our own internal team that does a lot of work in finding opportunities. And as of now, we're getting quite a few inbound projects, as well as people are getting more familiar with the carbon streaming story. So um, we have an extremely active pipeline, over $500 million of opportunities that we're looking at right now. I've been blown away by the types of opportunities that have come across our desk, and very enthusiastic about what that pipeline will look like over the next 12 months.
Tesla effectively became profitable on the back of carbon credits last quarter. We get the impression there will be tremendous investor appetite for what you're doing. What exchanges are you looking at listing the company on?
Yeah, yes, and I've been pleasantly surprised and shocked by the support that we've received from our shareholder base, and from new shareholders that are reaching out. Our plan is we're currently conducting a financing over the next couple of weeks. Plan to close that at the end of June or beginning of July, and plan on listing on the NEO exchange, the Canadian NEO exchange, in the first couple of weeks of July. Following that, which will be our Canadian listing, we will look to apply to list on the NASDAQ shortly thereafter. That usually is a process that takes a couple of months, depending on how busy the NASDAQ is, and a few other elements. But we intend to be listed on the NASDAQ around the end of the summer, I would suspect.
So how much of an impact do you think business models like carbon streaming can have on global climate change?
I think they can have a significant impact. This is a sector that requires trillions of dollars of investments over the next decade to get anywhere close to our Paris commitments. One of the reasons we set up carbon streaming was we didn't see any professional capital and public capital being invested into this space, and we wanted to set up a vehicle that could support these projects. I believe we can be major investors, major supporters of these projects, ensure that in many cases we're preventing deforestation or degradation of important rainforest projects around the world, supporting energy switching projects around the world. And these projects require capital, and they require a lot of capital. And I think carbon streaming can be a major supporter of those projects.
Okay, so Justin, last question. For investors watching the story, Are there any key timelines or events they should keep an eye out for the remainder of the year?
I think the key event for us, of course, from a public shareholder perspective, will be the listing. As I said, I'm hoping we accomplish that in the first half of July. That's what a lot of my time is being spent on these days, is getting that public listing going, and then looking for news around our investment pipeline. We do expect over the next several months that we'll be announcing many key new investments and partnerships to help continue growing the business and making ourselves sort of a major player in the voluntary carbon credit space, and so I think it should be a lots to watch out for over the next several months.
So aside from the public listing, are there any key timelines or events shareholders should be on the look for the remainder of the year?
Yeah, I think the biggest one, Cassandra, would be news and announcements around our investment pipeline. We have a very active investment pipeline, and I expect that we'll be publicly announcing several of those investments over the next several months. We are looking to maintain the momentum that we've gained here over the last 6 to 9 months, and actively deploy the capital that we have raised and will be raising. And so I think it's going to be an exciting time for the company, and hopefully an exciting time for shareholders as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Justin.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Cassandra. Thanks, Chris. That was great, and I'm sure we'll be doing more of this. So looking forward to it.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So you might want to hit that notification bell.